Is it really cheaper to buy a home with a pool versus having one built? Welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Lifestyle. I'm your host, Phil Kruse. Obviously, today we're going to be talking about pools in Orlando and how they relate to the real estate market. Obviously, we're going to talk about how they affect your property values and time on the market, the value that pools bring to the house. It's more than just monetary, okay? The best and most creative ways to pay for a pool and even current pool trends. But before we dive into all that valuable information, one of my main lead sources are listeners like you. I am a real estate agent after all. Think of me, Phil Kruse, that's Kruse with a K. When it is time for you or your family or your close friend, you're talking to them at the bar over a beer about real estate, let them know about me, my real estate services. I'm a listing specialist, of course. That's extremely important right now with this balanced market where buyers have more power than they've had in the last 10 years. Okay, follow me on social media. All right, a portion of all my real estate commissions go to charity. I donate to the New Image Youth Center where I volunteer. Search for me on all your social platforms. Phil Kruse, again, Kruse with a K. Follow me on Spotify, YouTube, all those, the talks, all the social medias, and find me on there. I'm extremely active, providing all kinds of great content for you to keep you up to date on what's going on in our great city, Orlando, which I think is the best city in the United States, but also providing real estate tips and then also interviewing business leaders, philanthropists, restaurateurs, chefs, cool Orlando people along the way, bringing you value. Now, a client of mine who lives in Eagle Creek down there in Southeast Orlando decided to put in this amazing pool. Okay, I'm talking pimped out, fake grass, the turf, beautiful pergola, fire features, summer kitchen. They sold their home for $950,000 while their neighbor next door had the same kind of a home, even with a pool, but just a regular basic pool. It was still for sale for $680,000. Now that's an extreme example, but it happened. And guess why? Because some Brazilian family came by, saw the pool, didn't even know, didn't have a real estate agent yet, drove by the house, saw the pool from the backyard, and knocked on the door and said, "We got to have this house. We see it's for sale. We have to see the sign." And they struck a deal right there. Crazy story, but it's all because of the pool, the emotional appeal. You can visualize your family back there. So how do pools increase property values on normal circumstances? So according to Redfin, a pool can increase the value of a home in Florida anywhere from 7 to 15%. And as I've earmarked or showed you already, it could be for a lot more. So what that really means is if you're selling a home for $700,000 in the exact same property next door, everything's exactly the same kitchen, same upgrades, but it has a nice pool, okay, a really nice pool, it could sell for easily $100,000 more. That's roughly 15% of the cost of the home. And let's not forget, homes with pools generally sell faster. Why? If you're moving to Orlando, if you're moving to the state of Florida, you're coming here from New York, from California, from Texas, wherever you're coming from, when you imagine a pool in Florida, or excuse me, when you imagine a home in Florida, you imagine it with a pool, right? So you're probably looking for a pool. It's a must-have for a lot of people moving to Florida. It's a must-have for a lot of people that already live here. All right, maybe you bought your first home, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square feet. You got a couple kids now. You're ready to move out. You made a lot of money and good decisions, financial decisions. You're ready to pimp out your next house. You're like, you know what? I'm only buying a house if it's a nice, sweet house, but it also has to have a pool for my kids. So in many cases, pools are essential in certain neighborhoods to get top dollar. Let's pivot a little bit. Imagine you're there cleaning your pool on a 95-degree summer day here in Orlando, and it's bright and sunny. It's hot. You're spending hours brushing the walls. You're getting the leaves off the bottom. You're balancing the water chemistry, and you're failing at it. And you're having to do it week after week after week. Does this vision of pool maintenance stop you from buying a pool or having one installed at your home? Well, let's break down the maintenance situation with pools and see if it's really as bad as I described in that story. First of all, you got to understand the maintenance differences between a saltwater pool and a chlorine pool. What's a saltwater pool? It sounds like you fill in your pool with salt water, and that's really what you're doing. You're literally dumping bags of salt in your pool. You only have to do it a handful of times a year, a bag or two every now and again. And there's a special chlorine salt cell in your pool equipment it's pretty cool. Electricity goes in there. It has these metal plates and the water flows across the metal plates. It has salt in it, right? And salt is NaCl, right? All my chemistry folks out there. Okay, so it splits the atom in two. The chlorine comes out, or so the molecule. Splitting the atom would cause a different effect, wouldn't it? So now you have the chlorine from the salt is floating around by itself, and so it generates the chlorine, and that chlorine goes into your pool versus a traditional chlorine pool where you're literally adding chlorine every week. Saltwater pools are much better. They're better for your skin. It keeps the chlorine level balanced and low all the time. So generally, kids don't need to have goggles, and they're easier to maintain because you don't have to be buying and messing with caustic chemicals like chlorine. You do have to put in some acid every now and again, but trust me, I have a saltwater pool. It's not a big deal. But what if you don't even want to take on the brushing and the cleaning of the bottom of the pool and getting the leaves out, which is really easy right now? They have automated pool cleaners that I have. It's a little like robot. Think about a Roomba, right, for your pool. You just turn that thing on, you throw it in there, it zigzags back and forth. You come back an hour or two later, any dirt, any leaves are gone from the bottom of your pool. It's really easy. The skimmer on the top of your pool, which sucks in the water off the top, brings it into a basket that generally gets all the leaves out most times of the year. Every now and again, you're going to have your oak trees that dump all their leaves or dump all their little flowers that look like dust. Then you got to go out there and rake and scoop it out. But that's only like a few times a year. Still, what if you're not interested in any of that? Cost of a pool contractor. You should be paying anywhere from $140, $150 to $200, depending on where you're at in Orlando and what kind of pool you have. But I would say a good budget price is $150. That's a month, okay? And that gets your pool guy out here every single week doing all that stuff, and it's pristine. Now, don't forget, if you do want to maintain it yourself, you got great pool stores all over Orlando. You got Leslie's Pools. You got other locally owned ones. And then, of course, you have Pinch a Penny. Nationwide, they do free water tests. And so let me tell you, it's amazing. You go in there on a Saturday morning with your little water sample. They test it for free and then tell you right there, okay, Phil, you need to add a little bit of salt. You need to add stabilizer. Or if you have a chlorine pool, you need to have this much chlorine. And they sell it to you right there. Or you do that a few times. You start to understand what is happening to your pool week after week. You can anticipate. Then you buy all the stuff off Amazon, right? You can buy the testing strips. You can buy a little chemistry set if you want. The testing strips work great. Then you can buy salt. You can buy, I'm not sure if you can buy chlorine, but you can buy stabilizer. I buy muriatic acid. So obviously I do it myself. Why do I do it myself? I didn't used to do it myself. The pool I live in now, the house I live in now, I'm not SpongeBob living in the pool. The house I live in now is the second pool home I've owned, but it is a salt water pool, not a chlorine pool. And I decided to fire my pool guy. Why? Because my pool guy kept dumping chlorine in my pool, even though I have a saltwater pool. And then my kids would go in it in the weekends and have, Dad, my eyes are burning. What's going on? It would be pretty upsetting. And so I kept telling him, if you need to dump in chlorine, tell me so I can be prepared and let my kids know, and they can wear goggles or something. They wouldn't communicate. I decided to let him go. Guess what I used? ChatGPT. ChatGPT is great. Go on there, ask it how to maintain your type of pool. It'll tell you everything. That with Pinch a Penny and some of the other little hacks I gave you, it is so easy. I'm glad I do it myself. Not only am I saving the money, but it's extremely simple, and I do it better, frankly. Now I don't have the chemistry issues. I don't have the burning eyes with my kids with their chlorine. And you do get the satisfaction of going out there, cleaning it yourself, just like anything you do with your hands. And when you look at it, when you're done, you're like, I did that. I didn't have to pay a professional to do it. And honestly, guys, it's not multiple hours. Like I said, you do it on the morning before it gets hot, especially if you have a system like me with that automatic cleaner you throw in. It's a saltwater pool. You don't have to balance the chemicals that much. The skimmer does most of the hard work. You pull out that stuff. You brush the pool every now and again so things don't grow on the side. You're in and out in 30 minutes, really, on one Saturday. It's not that big of a deal. Now, so are you sold? So now I've sold you on the concept of at least having a pool. So let's look at the real value of what having a pool is. And I don't mean as it pertains to your home's equity or how much it actually costs. All right. Are you a parent? Or are you a grandparent? If so, what is a better babysitter than a pool? Well, maybe an actual babysitter, but aside from that, what's a better babysitter than the pool? Once the kids know how to swim and you can trust them, you can turn your back. It's an amazing thing. They just play for hours, especially if they have their friends over, if they have siblings. And also, what a great way to act like a kid yourself, right? Like playing Marco Polo with your son or judging a cannonball contest, right? For your grandkids. It's so much fun. We get to relive our youth, get in there, throw the kids around. It is so much fun having a pool. A pool in your backyard is often the heartbeat of your home. I would argue that other than the kitchen, having a pool in a nice backyard setting is the second, or 1A versus 1B, most popular place in your home for people to congregate. You're going to be around your pool. You got birthday parties for your kids. You got birthday parties for yourselves, holidays, barbecues, sleepovers, you name it. All the special days are going to be spent around your pool. What if you have a jacuzzi, right? A spa. You're in there on cool evenings. You go out there with a glass of wine with your wife. When the kids go to bed, enjoying that. You have a barbecue, you have a summer kitchen. You get to enjoy that with your friends and family. Everyone's hanging out by the grill while the kids are in the pool. It's an amazing thing. Bottom line is there's an emotional return on investment. Okay. You're building a legacy. You're building memories with your kids, with your friends, your adult friends, your kids' friends. They're going to think back of all the birthday parties. They're going to remember the pool. They're going to remember jumping off the jacuzzi in there. You know what I mean? All the fun games, playing with you. I still have memories of my dad doing the garbage throw with me. I do the same thing with my kids. And let's not forget the aesthetics. You look out your window every morning and you see this beautiful body of water. Yes, it's man-made, but it's gorgeous most of the time, right? Because maybe beautiful pavers, maybe you have a nice pergola. You go out there, it's a nice calm morning and you hear that gentle sound of the waterfall coming down the jacuzzi. There's some tranquility, brings you peace. It's a gentle water flow. It's like a babbling brook. It does something to us as humans. And a pool can create those sorts of memories. So if you're on the fence about installing a pool, you got to really think about it. Is that kind of stuff worth it to you? Worth paying extra to buy the pool home? Worth biting the bullet and installing the pool yourself? Okay. Now, not all pools are created equal. Okay. So let's talk about my first ever pool. I bought a home that was built in 1958 over in the Hourglass District, and it had a pool that was probably built in the 80s. It had a 12-foot deep section as the deep end, obviously, and a big raised up concrete platform in that area. And there used to be a diving board, a springboard installed there, right? Obviously, it was an old school trend to have diving boards and water slides and all that crazy stuff. Now, of course, with insurance, if they find that you have any of that, they're going to not give you insurance or demand that you take it off. So be careful with that. Be careful how much information you share with your insurance company. I would argue share as little information as possible with your homeowner's insurance company, especially as it pertains to things like pools, to make sure that you keep your rates as low as possible. Let them find out and raise the rates, beg for forgiveness, right? Don't ask for permission. Well, obviously that was an old school thing. The pool was huge with hundreds of thousands of more gallons of water because of how deep it was. So what are today's current pool trends? If you're thinking about building a pool, and you want to stay in line with the trends because you might sell your house in 5 to 10 years, and you need to make sure the pool matches kind of the current taste. All right. Smaller pools are more in vogue now. I'm talking 12-foot wide by 20-foot long. There's a few reasons for that, right? Home lots are generally shrinking. All right. Even in new build communities, you go out in the outskirts of Orlando with these big walled communities, a lot of times the lots are only 50 or 60 feet wide and you're not getting much of a backyard. And if you don't have a septic tank back there, which is something you need to be thinking about, all right, when you're buying a home, if you want to put in a pool, is there a septic system? If so, where is it located? Because most of the time you can't relocate the septic system. And if the drain field, which takes up the most space, is in the backyard, right where your pool's going to be, you're shit out of luck. You're not going to be able to put a pool in there. But anyway, so you can get away with now putting in smaller pools. They're cheaper. That way you can spend more money on a nice paver deck area. You can take that money you're spending on building a smaller pool and put it over on a pergola or pavilion or a summer kitchen. Smaller pools are easier to maintain. I mentioned they're obviously cheaper. And generally speaking, who uses the pools nowadays? People aren't generally swimming laps anymore for exercise. They're not swimming laps. People aren't generally jumping off the springboard and doing diving as a form of exercise or creative expression anymore. It's just an old school thing. It's for the kids, right? And for the adults, you just want to be able to wade, cool off, whatever, just get wet with your buddies at a pool party, right? And hang out with some beers. You don't need a big pool, all right? So don't feel like you have to break the bank on a giant pool. Also, of course, high-end finishes, though, are absolutely popular. All right. Your nice pavers, the coping on the side that hangs over. You're talking glass tile. You see a lot of black tile. Granite is used now. Okay. I have a piece of granite on the spillway or the waterfall of my jacuzzi. Synthetic turf, very popular. I mentioned that before. Careful. Very expensive. And if you go cheap with a cheap contractor, they might do a bad job installing it. And then the synthetic turf bubbles up and it may not work. And what about your dogs? Peeing on it and stuff, something to think about. Pergolas, pavilions, right? Those are very popular. I love them. The difference between a pergola and a pavilion, pavilion has a real roof, an actual roof, whereas a pergola is open. It's like slatted, okay? And you can hang the hipster lights, right? Those market string lights. It looks amazing. Obviously, water features, any sort of waterfall is very common. Summer kitchens. If you got the money, go for a summer kitchen. It's amazing. I put a double kegerator in mine. I got a little refrigerator, and if you're over the age of 40 and you're a man, you got to have a smoker, apparently. All my friends are smoking meats out there. Pizza ovens are hugely popular right now. Can be very expensive, by the way. And of course, saltwater pools are now the trend. They dominate. They're just slightly more expensive, but again, for healthier skin, easier maintenance, more comfort on the eyes. I highly recommend going to saltwater pool, especially based on my experience. Now, imagine you're looking out into your backyard. You're having a pool built and you see a giant hole in the ground. All right. And it's surrounded by an orange plastic fence. There's been a delay in your project and your backyard is essentially useless because you have a small 50-foot wide lot. There's not a whole lot you can do in your backyard with that big hole. And your 6-year-old comes up and tugs on your shirt and asks, Mom, when will the pool be ready? And you say, Sweetie, God only knows. Well, with pool contractors, just like any other contractors, you have to expect the unexpected and expect delays. So what can you expect if you already own a home and you want to build a pool, or if you are considering buying a home that doesn't have a pool, because you can take that extra $100,000 that the pool might be worth, like I talked about earlier, right? Excuse me, that the home might be worth. $700,000 home with a nice pool might be worth $800,000. So you choose to buy the $700,000 home and then go ahead and install the pool. And we'll talk about what some of the benefits of doing that versus the other. Building a pool should take 10 to 12 weeks. I'm talking about from when you submit for permits, after you have the design, 10 to 12 weeks. So, what's that, 4 months? 3 months? Should be 3 months for good, efficient contractors if you don't run into any delays. Obviously, with delays, who knows, 6 to even 12 months. My pool took 12 months. I built a custom home. We had a pool. It was a pretty nice pool, but nothing crazy. There were some steps down, some changes in elevation, a waterfall with our jacuzzi. The stairs, of all things, created a delay. You had a special contractor just to do the stairs. And they couldn't get their permitting right with the county, and it was like a multi-month delay just for like 2 sets of steps that were long. So with anything in construction, you're renovating your kitchen, you're renovating your bathroom, you're having a pool installed, be patient. The contractors are doing their best. Hopefully you get a good contractor. And even if you have a good contractor, a lot of times things are out of their control with their subcontractors, labor, the county making a mistake with the permits. If something could go wrong, it probably will. How much does a pool cost? Right? Depending on the features. If you want to get a very basic pool, that 12 foot by 24 pool I mentioned with a simple paver border around it, you can get that done for as little as $50,000 or $60,000. Okay. So, and then you can just do some landscaping and make it look nice other ways. If you want to pimp it out, you want to have larger concrete features like a large paver area with patio furniture. If you want to put in a pergola, if you want to put in a summer kitchen, yeah, it could easily cost you $100,000 or more if you want to do a large pool with crazy rocks and all kinds of weirdness. But I would say generally a good rule of thumb for the average person is probably between $70,000 and $100,000 to have your own pool installed. All right. So again, if you're buying in a nice neighborhood and you're at a 700 or more price point, you could probably go into a home and build a pool and get your own custom pool done for the same price that you would have to add to the cost of the home when you purchase it outright. The difference is, right, you have to live through it, the construction, right? So remember, the average pool home in Orlando sells for anywhere from 5 to 15% more than a non-pool home of similar square footage. Now, of course, depending on the neighborhood and the size of the pool and the type of pool, if it's like a smaller home that needs some updating, and yes, it has a pool, but the pool is kind of not in the best shape, that's where you're going to see it sell more in that 5% range, right? It's not going to really add. It's going to add $10,000, $20,000 to the cost of the home. But if you buy it, fix it up, the home, pimp out the pool, it can go way up from there. So how do you pay for your pool? All right. Without draining your bank account. Okay. You want to buy the house. You're probably already at the top of your budget. Okay. Maybe you already own the house and you're not, I don't have the money, Phil. I don't have $70,000. I don't have $100,000 to fork down. Okay. Go with contractors that have phased payments plans so you can spread it out. That's number one. That's the easiest, most basic. Pay as you go. That's pretty common. But Pool contractors also know of financial brokers that are basically loan consultants that specifically finance pool construction. Okay. And so you basically just get a loan specifically for your pool. All right. It's not rocket science. You pay it off over time. Yes, you're paying interest, but it'll get it done. For me, this is the best way to do it, what I'm about to share with you. And this goes for anybody, for anything. Get a home equity line of credit. This applies to somebody who's owned their home for a couple years. Okay. If you bought during COVID or before COVID, you definitely have 50, 60, $100,000 of equity in your house. I can almost guarantee it. And even if you've only bought in the past few years, maybe 1 or 2 years, you probably have a good 40, 50, $60,000 of equity in your home. It's the lowest interest option. You talk to your current lender, but I would advocate you go into a place like Fairwinds Credit Union here in Orlando or something like that. You open up a home equity line of credit. They give you a loan based on the equity of your home. So if you have $100,000 of equity in your home, if you bought it for $600,000 and it's worth $700,000, and they'll appraise it, they'll give you a loan based on that $100,000. They'll probably give you something like 75% or 80% of that amount as a loan or as a line of credit. Excuse me. So if you have $100,000 of equity, you can have basically a credit card that's your house to the tune of an $80,000 credit limit. But instead of paying 20% interest like you would on a credit card, you're going to pay an interest rate that's in alignment with the current mortgage rates. So today that would be, and they add like a point and a quarter to make some profit. So you're talking about you're paying like an 8% interest rate, and you're only paying it on money you draw. So you pull the money out, you pay your contractor. Now you have a low interest payment. You don't have to pay high closing costs like you might have to do with a broker. The brokers are probably charging you a higher interest rate than that. So, and then once you pay it off, you still have access to that home equity line of credit until you choose to close it. It stays open for 30 years. Okay. If you're building a new house, obviously include it in the new construction financing. So when you're done, it goes into your mortgage. I recently had a podcast about new construction. You want to put everything you can, overestimate everything of how expensive it is going to be to build your house. If you think it's going to cost you $1 million to build your house, work with your contractor, pad your numbers, say it's going to cost 1.2, 1.3 million. That way your loan is for that amount. Okay. At the end of the day, when it's time for you to pay your mortgage and when it becomes a mortgage, you only pay your mortgage. Your mortgage is what you actually physically paid. So if you tell the bank it's going to cost 1.3, you ended up saving money and only spending 900,000 from the loan to build your house. Your mortgage is based on the 900,000. So it benefits you to roll in the cost of a pool into your mortgage. Now you have the lowest interest rate possible, which is a mortgage for this kind of thing. And you're paying off your pool alongside of paying off your traditional home. And even if you're buying a house, you're not building one, you got to check with lenders, and I can help you with this. You can find special mortgage companies that might give you basically roll into the loan to purchase the house to do upgrades, maybe to help you with a renovation or to have a new pool. And then it's the same thing. It becomes part of your mortgage. You could pay it off over a 30-year period. So how would that work? So let's think about that. So if you added a $100,000 pool to your mortgage, and we have a 6.5% interest rate like we have now. So that 700 to 800,000 jump is going to be my metric there. Your monthly mortgage payment on a 30-year mortgage is going to go up somewhere between $400 and $500 a month. So now you're paying an extra $500 a month, basically, to have a custom pool. And again, we talk about the emotional return on investment. Like, is that worth it for you? For a lot of people, it is. And that's why people are willing to pay more for pool homes. But what if you want to just buy the house that already has a pool? Okay. It's easier. And in most cases, yes, it is cheaper, quote unquote, to buy a house that already has an existing pool than it is to put in a new one, because most of the pool homes you're going to buy, the pools are older. They're not pimped out. And what does that come with? Okay. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That means the pool is probably going to require some sort of maintenance and upgrades from you when you purchase the home. Okay. So old pools, just like old anything, can have problems. Is there cracks in the surface? What's the status of the pavers and decking around it? What's the status of the pool equipment? Okay. Resurfacing a pool is a very common thing. If you build your own pool custom, you can do something called Pebble Tech on the inside, and it has a lifetime warranty. If there ever has any issues, the Pebble Tech company, which has been around forever, all right, they'll come out and resurface it for free. If you get a traditional like plaster surface, doesn't have any sort of extended warranty. You need to resurface a traditional pool with like that white plaster coating. you need to resurface that once every 10 to 15 years. And that's mainly because of staining. It just stains, it becomes ugly, and in some cases, it can become thin, and you might have an issue with it cracking over time. The average cost to resurface a pool is about $10,000 to $15,000. Pump upgrades. If you have an old pool pump, like I do back at my old house on Newcastle, there, Newcastle Drive, we still have an old pool pump. It eats a lot of energy. It's energy efficient. It can be loud. So you may want to upgrade the pool equipment to get high efficiency pumps. If you get a modern variable speed pump, much quieter, you might be saving as much as 80% in energy. So if you buy an old home, oh, I got a great deal on this pool home, but you got to spend $15K in the resurfacing. You got to spend another 10 to 20K on brand new equipment. It's like, all right, where does the math make sense that you could have just bought a different home, built a smaller pool that is pimped out to exactly your specifications, and roughly paid the same amount when you factor in how much extra you paid for the house and how much more you're going to have to pay to upgrade the pool. So, and again, you get to design it yourself. It gets to be yours. Okay. So Orlando is the best city in the US, in my opinion. You already know this. And the fact that we have so many pool homes in the area is a huge part of that. If you live in Orlando, you love the beautiful sunny weather we have. Yes, it gets hot, but guess what? It's hot everywhere in the summer. It's hot in New York City. It's hot in Michigan. My buddy just got sun poisoning up at his parents' lake house in the upper peninsula of Michigan. He got cooked alive. Okay, so it's hot everywhere. We have pools. We can use our pools in the summer. You can build a pool. There's millions or hundreds of pool contractors you can pull from. So if you want a pool home or you want me to recommend any pool contractors, don't forget about my real estate services. I'm a new construction specialist. I do property development myself. Okay, I've built over 25 homes now here. And of course, I'm a listing specialist. Just find me online, search Phil Kruse. That's Kruse with a K, Kruse. Follow me on all my socials, especially Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Very active there with a lot of insights about Orlando and tips like this about pools. Like and subscribe to my podcast. Click the bell on YouTube. Subscribe to me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and turn on your notifications so you get notified every time my episode hits YouTube or hits Spotify, usually on Mondays. That way you can check it out. And always know that your best life in Orlando is within reach. Keep embracing every moment. Cheers. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.